Hey everybody, it's me, Mark, back with another great episode of Finding Your Summit. In this case, this gal, Mandy Harvey, fits the bill. I first saw her when I came home one night. I kicked back on the couch and I flipped on the TV and I was watching America's Got Talent. And this gal gets up with a ukulele and starts singing, and she had the most beautiful voice. And then I find out that she is deaf. She actually can't hear what she is singing. And the song that she sings is a song called Try, all about overcoming adversity, being in a dark place, and then having to crawl out of a well to get where she is today. And she's come a long way. She's touring. She's got albums. That platform that she was on, America's Got Talent, certainly gave her, millions and millions and millions of people as a worldwide audience who now know her. But she really is there to give inspiration and hope to so many that have disabilities. I call it an A-ability, but we go through her journey and what that was like, and when she finally lost complete ability to hear, and then what she did to climb out of that and get where she is today. So listen, it's a great, great pod. Towards the end, she sings the song Try, so hang in there. And as always, please go and rate and review. It does help. And if you want any info on what I'm up to, markpattersonnfl.com. The pods are there too, and you can get updated. So with that said, let's get on to Mandy. It's a good one. Bye. Hey, everybody. It's Mark Patterson back again with another incredible episode of Finding Your Summit. And I'm so jacked up right now because I am doing a podcast with this amazing soul, and her name is Mandy Harvey. And as usual, I am beaming from Hermosa Beach, California. And in this case, she is sitting somewhere in Tampa, Florida. Mandy, how you doing?
I'm really good. So you could be beaming from one beach, I'll be beaming from another.
Oh, I love that. I've actually never been to Tampa, Florida, but Florida's got beaches, and just like California, of course, and I'd love to go there and visit. And I'm sure I probably go down and hear you sing somewhere someday, right?
Sure. I don't know. I'm not home that often, to be honest. The water is a little different here because it's actually warm, but it's fantastic.
Well,
you should go to Pete.
The Southern California water isn't too bad either. Okay, so let's set this up a little bit. So for people who don't know who you are, and I don't know how that could be because you're famous now, Mandy is somebody that I first saw on America's Got Talent. And I've always been a big fan of that show. And after she was on this, and I happened to catch her on about the quarterfinals or so. I don't watch it regularly. And then I saw this amazing soul get up on stage. I was like, I have to figure out how I can get her on this show. She totally fits with the whole theme of what we try to do here, which is all about trying to overcome adversity and finding your way to a successful path. And you have done that. So, okay, so the big thing here, and then we'll get into it. I'm going to shut up because I want to hear, obviously what you have to say. But Mandy is somebody who was born and had hearing difficulties to the point by the time she was 18 or 19, she lost her hearing. And what makes her amazing is that she's this incredible singer. She took 4th place on America's Got Talent. And here I am today talking to her. And so, Mandy, let's start back from, you grew up where?
I grew up in Florida, actually. So I grew up in Lehigh Acres, Fort Myers, Florida, which is southwest. And then when I was about in 5th grade, we moved to Colorado. So I lived in Colorado for about 15 years until I moved back recently, about 3.5 years ago, to Florida again, where all my family is.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And how did your loss of hearing, how did that all play out?
Well, I was born with a connective tissue disorder, but we didn't know it at the time. I have EDS, which is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, type 3, hypermobility. And so it affects all my joints, all my nerves and my ligaments, and it affects your insides, all of the things that work. It moves your organs around. Some people have skin elasticity. For me, I just dislocate a lot, and I have very fragile nerves. And
Wait. What does that mean, you dislocate a lot? Like you're walking down the street and your knee joint comes out of socket? What does that mean?
Yeah. Like while I'm sleeping, if I sleep on my side, it pops my hip out of socket. Then I have to pop it back in and I roll over to the other side. And then I lay on that side and it pops my hip out of socket. And when I wake up, my fingers are dislocated and I have to pop them back into place. I can pop my shoulder in and out of socket like this. One in, out. In. I mean, just that easy. My good knee, I have 2 functional legs, but they don't like me very much. My bad knee is my right knee. When I was a senior in high school, I stepped down wrong, hyperextended and dislocated my leg at the knee, complete dislocation, and I had 6 major surgeries on that knee in a year and a half.
Wow.
My good knee is my left, and it bends 45 to 50 degrees in the wrong direction.
So at what age did you start to recognize that your hearing was starting to wane and go away?
I mean, I've had that struggle my entire life. I first turned to sound when I was like 6 to 9 months old, so it wasn't immediate. I've had a lot of ear surgeries, tubes put in, surgically removed. I've disformed eustachian tubes so the pressure doesn't release, so I perforate my eardrums all the time. I've had sections of time where my eardrums would stop vibrating, so it's always been something that's kind of followed behind me. It's always been kind of like that bear chasing me my whole life.
Yeah.
But I was always a step ahead of it enough. So slightly hard of hearing when I was growing up, but it was never to a point where I couldn't pursue music. And music for me was everything. It was my way to express myself because I was always a painfully shy child with a lot of anxiety. And it was my way to say how I felt without feeling like people knew that's how I really felt. So it gave me a voice when I didn't feel like I had one. And then when I was going through all of these surgeries and all of these procedures, we didn't know I had EDS at the time. It was kind of a mixture of a lot of things. I had all these problems to begin with. The stress, trauma, hormones of being 18, 19 years old, and all of the medications in mass over and over and over again fatigued my nerves, for a lack of a better response. And when I went to college, I was in the middle of all of these surgeries. And I stopped understanding my teachers talking to me a month into the program. I was a music major. And
this was Colorado State?
Colorado State University, yeah. By Christmas, I was legally deaf and getting fitted for hearing aids. And then the new semester started. I had my hearing aid. And then my hearing progressed to a point where they did not help me with pitch or anything. I was dropped from the music program and became profoundly deaf within about 9 months.
Man. So, okay, I want to come back to that point in a minute, but I want to ask you about, so music, I mean, people know me, I guess, as a football guy and a mountain climbing guy, right? But what most people don't know is that I was classically trained as a violinist for 8 years. And,
oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I can play the guitar and harmonica and other things like that. But I know that, so much about music is like with the violin, I could feel it under my chin, right? And I could feel it on my chest. And with the guitar, you've got the guitar again, kind of backed up in your stomach, and you can feel that, right? And you can feel those notes. I can hear those notes. And I was never really taught in the violin method how to read music. Everything was done by sound. And then I interpreted that onto the violin. It was called the Suzuki method.
Yes.
Yeah. So
the polar opposite. I was sheet music and ear training and sight reading all the way. I was a big music theory person, still very much am.
So do you think that actually helped you learning it your way versus if you would have learned it my way, then you wouldn't know how to read, the music, right?
Exactly. Well, I mean, everybody's different. Everybody learns differently, and so some people really gravitate towards the method that you used. For me, music theory is what saved my bacon, because once I stopped being able to hear, I was using visual tuners to see what notes I was singing, and then going against sheet music, I'd sight read note by note with a tuner to make sure I was singing the correct sounds. And then from there, I kind of created like my own method similar to what you were talking about, but based off of feel. So instead of based off of an auditory, it was based off of feel. So I would chart out on my throat, singing one vowel sound, like ooh. And then I would sit in front of a mirror and mark off on my throat where I could feel it the most as it would travel up and down, while looking at that visual tuner to see what note I was singing. And specific notes buzz in the nasal cavity, specific notes rumble in your chest, and you can actually see it walk up your throat. And so you get used to that vibration, you get used to that feeling, and then even though you can't hear that note, it feels right. It feels correct because you train yourself based off of the feeling, based off of the vibration, instead of depending on your ears. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense because as you're singing a song, say you're singing Happy Birthday, you're not necessarily singing a note and then auto-correcting every single note that comes out as a singer. You start with a note and then you sing the next note and you hear yourself singing it correctly, and then you adjust if you're wrong. But typically it's just a matter of trusting yourself. And I think that was the biggest barrier for me to first get past, was the fear of failure and doing it wrong. Because once I let go and said, what's the worst that can happen? It opened a whole world for me of who cares if I sing a wrong note from time to time.
Well, I mean, you sing like an angel, so it's really remarkable, and we'll get into that a little bit. But two things. When I was doing the research on you, I saw this several times, and then you just talked about it. But what is a visual tuner?
Oh, I can show you. But, like when you use a guitar, you have tuners, and then the little light changes green when you hit a G correctly. So I use a lot of visual tuners. So as I'm singing, it's a whole gambit of notes, and then it shows me very accurately pinpointed where I am singing, and then I can adjust accordingly.
Got it. So for people, obviously, who can't see it, what she just did is she just showed this to me. We're doing a video Skype, and what she showed me was a device that when you speak, you can literally see the notes, a C, a B, a D, what you're trying to hit. So it's measuring so then that you can follow if you're hitting that note correctly or incorrectly.
Right. And there's a ton of free apps that people can download. The one that I use the most right now is called Pano. It's free. And I thoroughly enjoy it depending on what instrument you want to use. But for me, I just stay consistent and I train with it all day long. Every day. Like when I go to sing the national anthem, I find a D flat and I start there and I sing the national anthem. And so it's just like, I'll sit there 90 times before walking up to the microphone and hum that same note and then watch that little guy say D flat and be like, all right. So I am doubting myself. I hit it the same every time, but I'm just going to be nervous. And then so I sing it into the phone and it shows me where I am. And then I adjust accordingly to make sure that I'm right on the money. A
lot of people talk about technology and what a negative thing it is. And to me, technology has really enhanced so many different lives. And here's another great example of what technology can do. You're singing into your phone. It's giving you the perfect pitch. And then you're able to go out and actually do your thing. It's really cool.
Right. Well, and for my community, technology has really bridged a gap. The ability to be able to see you in person instead of having a phone call. I can lip read you from here. I also, what you can't see is I have a little bar below you that is captioning what you're saying. I have a person on the other side who's typing what you're saying so that I don't have to do and just rely on lip reading. So it's like this technology is helping us to have a conversation from across the country, and the closed captioning phones and lights for fire alarms, the ability to text 911 instead of call them. And that's beneficial to people who can't call or can't talk for themselves. Or heck, what if there's a person in your house and you have to be silent? And you can get that information across without having to actually audibly say you need help. Yeah. I mean, so many benefits to technology improving. It's bridging gaps for people who have disabilities, language barriers. I can speak into my phone and it translates everything that I'm saying into French so that the people that I'm talking to in French know what I'm saying, and then they write it back, and then it comes over in text in English. It's amazing the things that have changed in such a short amount of time.
Well, to the person on the other side of the computer, I'm saying hi. Okay. So hi back. Okay. So going back to what you're saying, when you now lose your ability to hear what's coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Can you still hear that in your head, that melody, or is that vibration that you were saying in your chest or your throat?
It's a feeling. It's very much a ghost, because I have an idea of what it sounds like in my mind, but I have a very clear understanding that probably what I'm thinking and what it really is nowhere close to each other, because at this point it's been 10 years. And so the first year after I lost my hearing, I could still fantasize different voices for people talking. And now everybody is just me. They sound like me when I was 18 years old. So when I'm lip reading, I play what they're saying in my head as I'm lip reading. It's the same with music. So to me, it's just a feeling at this point, like that reliance of understanding has really dissipated over the last 10 years. And it's a little sad, it's a little heartbreaking, but at the same time, I'm hyper-focusing on the vibrations, I'm hyper-focusing on the feel and the lyrics and the things that I have control over. And I feel like it's made me let go more. I can't judge myself as much anymore. Like before, performance was something that petrified me. I was the kid who used to throw up and cry when they had to give a presentation.
Yeah, a lot of people like that.
Yeah, it used to be like the number one fear, people would rather die than give a presentation.
Yeah.
So people were more afraid of actually speaking at a funeral than being the person that was there being celebrated. But now that I can't hear myself, I can't judge how the sound comes out. And so I can't say, oh, I could have sung that better. Or, ooh, that note didn't come out the way that I wanted it to. It's gone. It was just a feeling. And so it felt the way it felt, and I moved on.
Yeah, well, certainly you've moved on because you perform now in front of some huge audiences. I've seen you in stadiums. I've seen you in arenas. And, of course, the whole America's Got Talent thing. I mean, that's crazy, with the amount of people. You walk up there. You haven't done this before, and, you can say that it doesn't matter or you don't care or whatever because you can't hear those things necessarily. It's a feeling, but you're still looking. You still have the ability to see, and you can see all these people.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, growing up, my biggest fear was losing my hearing. And I thought surely if that happened, it would destroy me. And here I am. I'm still here. I'm still breathing in and out. And I've got dreams and aspirations. And I'm starting to discover a whole new world of possibility. And I love myself and the things that I'm getting involved with for the first time in my life. What's the worst that can happen? They don't like the song. I don't sing it pretty enough for them. Somebody doesn't believe my story or care about what I'm writing about. Who cares? I have already been broken down to the core of who I was. I lost my entire identity. You can't take anything from me at this point. It doesn't matter. No, I'm just to encourage people.
Yeah, no, look at you are doing that and you've got the absolute right idea. And I think, so I talked to so many of these different people who've overcome these unbelievable things, no arms and legs or blind or, all these things, right? And I've had my struggles. And I think it's one thing to say about how you should be or you're thinking, but if you're not really taking that in, heart, mind, body, and soul, and really are authentic about it, I think you're living a lie, right? And I think this is what it seems like you have made that transition from this lost soul because you thought your identity was gone to where you are today and all these amazing things that have happened to you.
Yeah. Well, and I have my focus in a different place. If I had done AGT with the mindset of I want people to like me, I think that would have been far scarier. I think if I had done AGT with I want to be famous or I want the attention, I think that would have been far scarier and just not me. I went into doing AGT with the idea of encouraging one person. One.
Yeah.
And if I fell on my face and I didn't do well and Simon X'd me off the stage, I would have been X'd off the stage, but I still would have been the same me, and I would have encouraged somebody regardless.
Yeah.
So it really helped me let go. But I agree, it's one thing to say that you're going to let go. It's another thing to actually let go.
Yeah. What I'd like to tell people, by the way, AGT, this is our little acronym, but that's America's Got Talent. So just so that we're all talking about the same thing. But
okay, yes.
Yeah, no. Well, you're a seasoned pro now, so you can say those things. But what I always talk about is really, I think we've got a lot of the same philosophies, and I always talk about where your focus goes, your energy always follows, right? So if you want to be sad, that's your focus, then your energy is going to be low. If you want to focus on something else, you're going to go climb mountains, and here's how I'm going to do it, then your energy is going to be a different level. And I think it's so key to get your mindset in the right place and do what you need to do to get yourself in that position to be focusing and thinking about all the right things that are going to bring you success, right?
Yeah, I also think that it's instrumental to surround yourself with people who can help you with that goal. I have a dear friend of mine named Eric Weinmeier, and he talks about having a rope team. For him, climbing Mount Everest and things like that, you have a team of people who help you get up that mountain. And this rope team in your everyday life are these people who hold your hand and who are walking this journey with you and encouraging you when you feel like giving up. And you're giving back and encouraging them when they feel like giving up as well. And so I think that it is right. It's having your mind focused and determined and set in a positivity. But it's also a heart for what your goal is and who want to see you succeed and who are going to cheer and buck you up when you've fallen down that same step 992 times. But on the 993rd time, you're going to make it. You just got to do it one more time. And they're going to be the ones who tell you that you're going to do it, even though you're telling yourself that this is impossible. And they're like, why? So I think it's impossible some respects to approach any challenge just by yourself, because you're not really alone.
No, of course. And you actually hit on my number 2 key to success, which is surround yourself with positive voices, right? Is what you're just talking about. And the second part of that is Eric was on this podcast and he's wonderful. And so for those who don't know, Eric is a person who is blind and he's done some remarkable things. He's climbed Mount Everest. He's climbed the 7 summits. He's kayaked like 300 miles down the Colorado River by himself, and it certainly in his case takes a village to create this community and he surrounds himself with amazing people. And so it's good that you recognize that, and it's good that, you're involved in his No Barriers organization. So I want to go back still, and before we get into all this really cool stuff that you're doing now, and I just can't imagine this, right? And how long a period of time was it for you when you lost your hearing completely? You knew it wasn't coming back before you started to merge out of this and reset your mind?
I kind of did it in chunks. So for an entire year, I didn't sing at all. I didn't even think about music. I shut it down, which for a music major, somebody who did it 80 hours a week of just music was a very long time. I moved back home. I started taking ASL classes. I got involved with the deaf community. It gave me a sense of purpose, but also a sense of human. I transitioned from feeling like the only stupid person in the room, the only broken person in the room, the only disattached person in the room, to understanding that my life is different. It doesn't mean that it's not beautiful. And that gave me a sense of purpose and a sense of that I wasn't just a broken doll, that I had goals and I had dreams. And I had made a serious mistake of attaching one dream with my entire identity. So when that one dream died, I felt like I truly did die. Now, getting back into music and everything, that's kind of like people's first thought of, oh, that's when you turned your life around. But I had been back involved with music again after about a year and a half, and just the really baby steps of it. I didn't truly start loving myself or my situation or not being bitter about not being able to hear until maybe 3-4 years after. because I had gotten a taste of music again, but it just wasn't the same. And that bothered me every day, but I wasn't going to give up. And eventually I had to really work hard to kick my own butt and say that just because I'm experiencing music differently than I had intended, or I had dreamed, or I had pictured when I was a kid, doesn't mean that this isn't fulfilling, and this isn't beautiful, and this isn't everything that it needs to be. And it's taken me a lot of years. Yeah. I like to describe the whole journey as I fell down a dark well, and for a long time I just sat on the bottom and I couldn't see any light ahead and nothing around, and I just kind of sat there for a long time. And then eventually I started making the painful choice to get up and start climbing up that side of the wall. And I have fallen, refallen, and broken myself and crashed back on the bottom time and time and time again. But I'm climbing out of that well still. But I can see the light at the top now. And I want to call back at the people behind me to say that we're going to get there.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's incredible. I can really relate to you what you're talking about, because you can appreciate as NFL players, you play a game you've been playing since you're, 7 or 8 years old. And then somehow or another, you make it all the way up through high school, through college, you keep going, and then you get drafted or a free agent into the NFL. And then, one day it happens to everybody, whether you're a Pro Bowl player or just a guy that just barely makes a team or has been around for a couple of years, but your career is cut off and you go through this sense of loss, right?
Yeah.
Which you're probably talking about.
Crisis.
Yeah. And so what you talked about is something I totally identify. It took me a couple of years before I kind of got on track again and got my momentum and got my purpose and what I was going to do and how I was going to dig out. And just the whole key is rechanneling that same energy that you had before towards something new. And in the process in between is just figuring out what that new thing is, right?
Right.
Okay. So now you're back in the game. Right? You're starting to climb out of this well as you described it, and you're starting to grab the top on this side and the top on that side, pull yourself up, and you start singing again. Where in there did you start playing the ukulele?
I started playing the ukulele about 4 years ago because I used to play guitar, but because of my EDS or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, my fingers kept dislocating and I couldn't physically play the guitar anymore. And it was causing severe pain and shooting all the way up my body. And so a friend of mine introduced me to this tiny little ukulele, and I just fell in love with it. And it's super easy to play, but the strings are very easy to push as well, and so it doesn't hurt as badly. My thumb still dislocates in the back as I'm playing, and after about 15 minutes I lose feeling in my arm, but that's just my own personal barrier that I have to deal with. It just means that at a concert, I can only play 1 or 2 songs on the ukulele at a time before I need like a break.
Yep.
Before I play another one and give myself time to let the blood kind of go through the fingertips and shake it out a little bit and pop my thumb back into place. But 4 years ago, I would say, I started playing the ukulele, and I love it. I love it a lot.
I think it also matches well with your voice.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no. And for people who don't know this, that typically guitars, I'm not talking about classical guitars or with steel strings, and with the uke, they're nylon, right? Yeah.
Nylon, yeah.
Okay, so now you're emerging out of Colorado State, right? And now you're emerging out of this dark place. I mean, I know it took a couple years to do, and you connect with a guy named Mark Sloniger. Is that correct?
Sloniker, yeah.
Yeah, Sloniker, and he's a jazz pianist.
Mm-hmm.
And so did you start to collaborate with him in terms of starting to get up and sing in bars or lounges, or how would you describe that?
I met up with my old vocal coach, Cynthia. So my dad asked me to play a song with him, and that was terrifying and weird, but we did it. And then he asked me an absolute crazy request, which was to learn a song to sing. And so that's when I got a song from my sister. She got me the sheet music for it. I sat down for 8 to 10 hours, didn't even get up to pee, with a guitar tuner, and I sang through every note of the song. And anytime I made a mistake, I started the whole song over again. And so then by the time my dad got home from work, I had finished through the whole song once, actually. And so we sat down, I sang it, and I had done it accurately to him, but I didn't really believe him because he's not a voice coach. He's my dad. He's biased. So we recorded it on a little home recorder. I sent it to my vocal coach. She asked me to start doing lessons again. And then she said, you know what, you should sing a song at this open mic night at Jay's Bistro. And I said yes. And I have no idea why I said yes. Like, as it came out of my mouth, I regretted it instantly.
Is this in Colorado?
Yeah, that's in Fort Collins.
Okay.
It was horrifying. And so I sang My Funny Valentine, and I had my little recorder, and I sang my first note, and then Mark was playing the piano there. And then soon I was playing every week, and then doing my own concerts there, and then singing for 3 hours, and then doing my own concerts around the country. And then I made my first album, then my second, then my third, and now I am a full-time musician, and I have a touring band. They all are from Tampa, St. Pete area down here, and I have a 4th album of all original music that I'm looking forward to releasing this year. So it was kind of like I put my foot into a river and just kind of got lost as it went down. So every step has just been out of control.
Well, boy, I mean, this whole thing about actions create reactions, and without putting yourself out there, none of this would have ever been possible. And now you've got tremendous amount of possibilities. And I want to talk to you about the whole process, like about America's Got Talent, AGT, right? And so, like, how do you do that? I'm just a closet guy, a musician, and I don't go out there and play and put myself out there like that. But, how do you go through the process, and then how did they invite you to be on the show? And then what was that audition like?
Well, I mean, you go and you audition. So you make a decision to show up and
in New York?
Well, I mean, they've got a bunch of different places that you can go. You can go to Atlanta, you can go to New York, you can go to Orlando. There's a lot of different areas and places that you can go to do your initial audition. And then if you pass in front of producers, if you're good enough for the producers, then they send you to sing in front of the judges for the first time. And it's filmed, it's taped, because they have so many acts that they have to put it all into one episode, and then they spread it through. So I was flown to LA to sing in front of the judges for the first time. And I was the first night of filming. The filming was delayed because Mel B's dad died. And so I was almost canceled on and had to come back. But we were delayed a couple of days, but I was the first day of filming. And they had tested all of the X's, all the red X's, right before my sound check. And then they tested them right before I walked out on stage. So I was feeling real confident.
Which means when there's a series of X's, then you're off. Your journey is done, right?
Get booted, yeah. And so I was the second, I think, act to perform in total. And Simon had said, I am not giving my golden buzzer out this time. And I walked out on stage and sang Try. And he gave me his golden buzzer. So he basically reneged really quickly. But then from there, because
wait. What is the golden buzzer?
So here's a funny tidbit. I had never seen the show before, so at the time I didn't really know. But turns out what it means is that you skip kind of the judges' cuts rounds and you go straight to the live shows. So you skip a couple of rounds so that you don't have to be booted off the show until America starts voting. Yep. So the judges are not responsible for your untimely demise. And bam! Straight to the live shows.
It was incredible. And I got to tell you that I went through, and in my research of all this, I watched that audition tape. And you sang the most beautiful song called I'll Try, right?
Try, yes.
Try. This is a song that you created?
Yeah. I only sing original songs on the show. And Try was a song that was actually inspired because of No Barriers and a conversation I had with Eric Weinmeier, to be honest.
That's awesome. And so as I'm sitting here watching this 7-minute clip, and it starts off where Simon is asking, okay, Mandy, tell us about yourself, and you're kind of giving the quick, 2-minute thing on, your disability and the song you're going to sing, and you're up there with your ukulele, and then you get into it, and then, you could just see the audience rose, and they loved what you were doing, that the judges were clearly moved, and as I'm listening to your songs and the lyrics of these about possibilities and being down on the gray skies and blue skies. And, I was welling up. I mean, it was very touching and it was very moving. And so when he stood up and went over and hit the golden buzzer and all the confetti and everything that was hitting the stage, it was just an amazing moment.
Absolutely unreal. I still, I filmed that in March and it released June 6th on D-Day, but I had to keep it a secret for like 2-3 months. And I kept thinking, because it was such an astronomically crazy moment, that it must be fake. Like it must be in my dream. And so I kept a piece of gold confetti in my wallet to remind myself that it actually did happen, because it was just so bizarre to me that even transpired that I had to keep a piece of it to remind myself on a daily basis that this is really happening. It was crazy. I was going to go in with an understanding that they'd only really let like 5 people sing their own songs on the show in its entirety. And they were allowing me to sing a song that I wrote. And to me, if I was going to go home and get buzzed off, I was going to sing the song that started it all. And for me, that was Try. I wrote that song because Eric asked me why I wasn't writing music and why I wasn't sharing my stories and talking to people honestly about my disabilities and why I was afraid. Yeah.
So I love what you were just talking about. You picked up a piece of confetti and you put it in your pocket on your purse and you wanted to carry that around as a reminder. I wanted to show you this, and what it says is believe, right? And I wear this necklace every day around my neck just to hold on to the things that I'm very passionate about and that I want my dreams to come through, and making sure that I never forget who I am, where I'm at, and where I want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can very much identify what you're talking about. Is there any chance I could get you to play that beautiful song, Try?
Oh, of course. Of course. I have my uke. I always have it. This is a fun tune to play. Hopefully you can hear it okay.
We can hear it.
Yeah?
Rock it.
I don't feel the way I used to. The sky is gray, much more than it is blue. But I know one day I'll get through, and I'll take my place again if I would try. If I would try, I don't love the way I need to. You need more, and I know that much is true. So I'll fight for our breakthrough, and I'll breathe in you again if I would try. If I would try. There is no one for me to blame, 'cause I know the only thing in my way is me. I don't live the way I want to. That whole picture never came into view. But I'm tired of getting used to the day. So I will try. So I will try. If I would try. If I would try.
Golden buzzer, boom. Yeah, all this stuff down. The only thing in the way is me. I mean, that applies to so many people. Yeah, it's just a beautiful, beautiful song. And you've got a beautiful voice. So that was amazing. So you take fourth place, and you go through this whole craziness in this process of elimination, and it's just one by one, and you're still standing, right? And then you make it down to the top five.
Yeah, it was crazy because at the start of the live shows, I actually got pneumonia. And so from the live shows, semifinals, and the finals, I was in and out of doctor's offices in the hospital. And so I was just glad that sound was coming out. I was so incredibly sick. And the fact that I'm not even sure how I did the semifinals because I was so sick. But making it all the way to the finals, wow, it was absolutely unbelievable. And the encouragement and the letters and the emails and the messages of people who were touched by the songs that I was singing and who felt like they were encouraged and given a little bit of hope in a seemingly very dark world right now made me really confident to say that I made the right decision to go past my comfort zone and to not allow fear to hold on to me, to push other people. That was my goal from the beginning. I didn't care if I made it to the finals. I didn't care if I made it to the semifinals. I didn't care anything. I just wanted to encourage people, and every step along the way, I got to live that. And it's an incredible feeling to have your entire career be based off of making people smile.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And, certainly it's this whole thing about the whole notion of it's about the journey, not the destination. So people who, I made it to the NFL, I made it to major college, I've done some of these major mountains, I've started businesses, and that's great, but it's all the things and the little things. My joy comes into all the preparation and all those experiences I had with those people in getting to those certain places, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So what does this mean for you now? So you emerge out of this. Obviously, your star goes from nobody, relatively speaking, knew who you were. You go on a show like that. You've got, worldwide views now. What has that done for your life?
Well, I mean, it just kind of reaffirmed that I'm doing what I was supposed to be doing, but it's really shifted my direction a bit. I have a fourth album that I'm excited to release this year. I want to work more with changing how things are done a little bit, even just concerts and festivals to make them more inclusive. I want to work more with people with disabilities and to further education about encouraging people to learn ASL, to understand that deaf can, and to change kind of the idea of what disability looks like, because everybody is different and so many people have invisible disabilities, and because it's not so easy to explain just because looking at a picture, we don't talk about it. And that's kind of ridiculous. One of the things that I find also ridiculous is 95% of the parts being played in the media of somebody with disabilities is played by someone without disabilities. And that's ridiculous to me, because we're afraid or ashamed of some reason of allowing people who have these actual disabilities to portray what it really looks like. And that needs to change. That needs to change.
So look, I don't see it. You use the word, and it's probably the right word, called disability. For sure, in your case, it's an ability.
Yeah.
Because of all the things. For sure. The things that, you have not been slowed down from anything. Your star is shining much brighter than many people with, no issues. And it's almost been a blessing for you that you've had to go through this. God has a plan for all of us. And in your case, the plan was for you to lose your hearing. And because you lost your hearing, it enabled you to do other things and get stronger than ever. And now look at where you are. And the messages that you're spreading to all these different people that are looking to climb out of their well, right? Yeah. They're at the bottom.
Yeah. I think that this world is a very broken place, and that you deal with struggle and you have free will and genetics and all these things that are messy, and you can allow it to consume everything. Or you can say that I'm going to take this as an opportunity to better myself and to grow and to learn. And I feel like this whole experience, if it's done nothing, it's made me a lot more empathetic towards other people. It's made me a lot more aware of my surroundings about how to overcome, how to encourage, but also how to love people more. And I wouldn't trade any of the things that have happened for that information. You know, I feel like I'm a much better person having hit the bottom and struggled step by step. And to be fair, I'm sure that I'm going to lose my footing and fall and smack the floor again at some point in time. But it's something that I know that I can survive, and I will get better, and I will be stronger.
Well, I'm much older than you are, and I can tell you that all these experiences, very positive and some negative, have all put me in a position today, I think, to have, number one, these podcasts, but to give me better insight on being able to relate to different people with different struggles that they've gone through, right? Yes. So, again, it's just, struggles can be a very positive thing if you look at them in the right way. So a few more questions here. So one of my all-time great country stars that I love listening to is Shania Twain, right? Yeah. And you got to go on America's Got Talent, and you two did a duet. And what was that like, meeting her and doing that with somebody that's, so huge in the industry?
She's so incredibly nice, and, she's dealt with her own struggles with Lyme disease and losing her voice and all of the things like that. So it was interesting for us to meet each other because we both smacked the bottom. And so we really kind of related to that pretty quickly, and we just kind of had fun with it. It was so quick. You practice a song and then bam, you're singing it in front of 14 million people. It was quite insane. She's a lovely person with such a light to her.
That's incredible. Yeah, you guys sing that song beautifully, and I was just like, keep going. Right? They were play another song.
Shania and I, we should go on tour.
You should go on tour. So where can people find you?
Oh, they can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. My handle is Mandy Harvey or Mandy Harvey Music, but I'm here, there, and everywhere. Even if they Google and they forget my name and they put deaf singer, they'll find me. Okay. But I'm here, there, and everywhere. If you follow me on Bands in Town, they'll see all of my concerts, or if you want all that information, you can always go to mandyharveymusic.com for tour information for music, for the store to buy past albums, or to find all of my social medias right there.
That's great. Well, we are going to put all this stuff in the show notes, so they'll have links to all these different places that you show up on, Facebook, Twitter, your URL, and hopefully lots of people will come on out and hear you sing, and you can dazzle them with, all your magic.
Yeah. Well, and I hope that they come to some concerts, because we have a lot of fun at concerts, and I play a lot of songs, a lot of original material that's not released yet, and I typically feature some fantastic musicians, so I hope that they can come and join my world for a bit.
Well, I'm going to come, so I'm your first fan, right? Woo-hoo. So I know I'm signing up. So I'm going to go on. I'm going to find out when you come to the West Coast, and then I'm going to be your first fan. I'll be on the very front doing the mosh pit, whole thing. Okay?
Okay. I'm coming soon, so you better get on that.
I will get on that. Well, listen, thank you so much, and I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, you've absolutely made my life better by listening to you and your story and what you went through, and it was an absolute joy to see you go through all that America's Got Talent stuff and, propel you to where you are today.
Oh, well, thank you. And it's the same to you. And I've done a lot of research on you. And I think what you're doing with this show and creating a positivity and giving things for people to really digest and think about to apply to their own lives is absolutely beautiful. So thank you for all the things that you do.
Thank you so much.
Hey, and thank you so much for listening to the Find Your Summit podcast. We are so glad to have you along for this journey. And if you enjoy the show, please tell a friend, share it on iTunes, spread it to the planet. We're looking to broadcast this to every person that is out there because, as you know, everybody has their own summit that they're going after. If you're looking to follow my journey, you can find that through my social links on markpattison.nfl.com. That's Mark, M-A-R-K, Pattison, P-A-T-T-I-S-O-N, NFL.com. So, until the next podcast, just remember, clear eyes, full hearts, and remember, it takes a little more to make a champion, so make it happen. Thank you. Bye.